Good morning, everyone. I am Ira Jane E. Navidad, and I will be discussing the first few parts of the Chapter 9, which is entitled Improving a Classroom Based Assessment Test. So, our intended learning outcome. At the end of Chapter 9, students are intended to acquire procedures for improving a classroom based assessment test. Judgmental item improvement. So, from the word judgmental, this approach basically makes use of human judgment in reviewing the items. The items refers to the questions that you are providing the uh, for the class that you are handling. So the judges are the teachers themselves who know exactly what the test is for, the instructional outcomes to be assessed, and the item's level of difficulty appropriate to his or her class. The teacher's peers or colleagues who are familiar with the curriculum standards for the target grade level, the subject matter content, and the ability of the learners, and the students themselves who exactly uh, perceive difficulties based on their past experiences. So this is a way of making a test better by asking people to review the test questions, give feedback before it is finalized, instead of relying only on the statistics or the criteria. This method uses human judgment, the knowledge, experience, and the insights of teachers, colleagues, and even the students. Teacher's own review. So there are 5 suggestions given by Popham for the teachers to follow in exercising judgment. So the first one is adherence to item-specific guidelines in general item writing commandments. Second, contribution to score-based inference. Third, accuracy of content. Fourth, absence of content gaps. And five, fairness. So the first one is adherence to item-specific guidelines and general item writing commandments. So there are specific guidelines provided in writing various forms of objective and non-objective constructed response types for measuring lower level and higher level thinking skills. These guidelines should be used by the teachers to check how good the items have been planned or written, particularly in their alignment to intended instructional outcomes. When teachers write test questions or the items, there are helpful rule sets to follow. The item-specific guidelines are rules for each question type. For example, how to write good multiple choice, the true or false, the matching type, the short answer or essay questions. So when we say the general item writing commandments, these are the broad rules that apply to any question no matter the type. These rules come from the research in teaching experience, and following them makes a test more clear. So the second one is the contribution to score-based inference. So the teacher examines if the expected scores generated by the test can contribute to making valid inference about the learners. Can the scores reveal the amount of learning achieved or show what have been mastered? Can the score infer the student's capability to move on to the next instructional level, or rather the scores obtained do not make any difference at all in describing or differentiating various abilities. So inference basically means the conclusion or the judgment that the teacher makes based on the test scores after the students takes the test. So a test is only good if its scores give valid information about the student's knowledge and skills. The teachers doesn't just look at the numbers. They try to interpret what those numbers say about the student's learning, skills, and readiness. The third one is the accuracy of content. This review should especially be considered when tests have been developed after a certain period of time. Changes that may occur due to new discoveries or developments can redefine the test content of a summative test. If this happens, the items or the key to correction may have to be revisited. So this point is about making sure that the content of the test is still correct and up to date. Sometimes after a test is made, new discoveries and changes in knowledge or curriculum updates can happen. If that's the case, some test questions or even the answer keys might become outdated or wrong. So teachers need to review the accuracy of the test content, especially if they're reusing old tests for summative exams. If the content has changed, the test questions or the correct answers may must also be updated. So the fourth one is absence of content gaps. This review criterion is especially useful in strengthening the score-based inference capability of the test. If the current tool misses out on important content now prescribed by a new curriculum standard, the score will likely not give an accurate description of what is expected to be assessed. The teacher always ensures that the assessment tool matches what is currently required to be learned. This is a way to check on the content validity of the test. So, absent of content gaps means a test should cover all the important topics or the skills that the curriculum requires. If the test leaves out key lessons or the content gaps, the scores won't accurately show what the students really know or what they can do. Um, they can do. So this is connected to content validity, meaning the test truly measures what it is supposed to measure. The fifth one is the fairness. So the discussions are on item writing guidelines always give warning on intentionally favoring the uninformed students obtain higher scores. These are due inadvertent grammatical clues, unattractive distractors, ambiguous problems, and messy test instructions. Sometimes unfairness can happen because of due advantage received by a particular group, like those seated in front of the classroom or those coming from a particular socioeconomic level. So a fair test gives all students an equal chance to show what they know or what they can do. Sometimes tests can accidentally favor some students or the advantage and advantage others. This happens through grammatical or wording clues that make the right answer too obvious or ambiguous questions that only some students can guess correctly, or the distractors, or what we call the wrong choices or the options that are too easy to eliminate. So teacher reviewing their own test or the teachers as the judges, for example. Um, um, For this situation, a math teacher makes a quiz and realizes one question requires a formula they never taught in class. Using judgmental improvement, the teacher removes or changes that question because it's unfair for the students because they have never encountered that type of question or the formula that they need. We're now moving to the next type of review, which is the peer review. So there are schools that encourage peer or collegial review of assessment instruments among themselves. Time is provided for this activity, and it has almost always yielded good results for improving test and performance-based assessment tasks. During this teacher dyad or triad sessions, those teaching the same subject area can openly review together the classroom test and task they have devised against some consensual criteria. So peer review means teachers work together in pairs or small groups like the dyad or triad. Schools encourage this because when teachers share and review their assessment tools, um, teachers or they can spot mistakes or weaknesses that one uh, person or the teacher alone might miss. This process usually improves the quality, the fairness, and the accuracy of the test. So the suggestions given by the test experts can actually be used collegially as basis for a review checklist. So first is the do the items follow the specific and general guidelines in writing items, especially on first being aligned to instructional objectives. Second, making the problem clear and unambiguous. Third, providing plausible options. Plausible means believable or reasonable. And the fourth, avoiding unintentional clues. The fifth is having only one correct answer. So these are needed because to have an option that are clear and options in test questions, especially in multiple choice. The wrong options or what we call the destructors should be plausible, meaning they look like they could be the correct answer. So students really have to think, or if the wrong options are silly or obviously wrong, the test becomes too easy. So next are B. Are the items free from inaccurate content? C. Are the items free from obsolete content? D. Are the test instructions clearly written for students to follow? E. Is the level of difficulty of the test appropriate to level of learners? And F. Is the test fair to all kinds of students? So for example, a science teacher asks a colleague to review her exam. A colleague notices that one question is more appropriate for a higher grade level. Uh, Parang it's too advanced for the grade level for her or his for her class. Okay, next up is the student review. Engagement of students in reviewing items has become a laudable practice for improving classroom tests. The judgment is based on the student's experience in taking the test, their impressions and reactions during the testing event. The process can be efficiently carried out through the use of a review questionnaire. Popham illustrates a sample questionnaire. It is better to conduct the review activity a day after taking the test so the students still remember the experience when they see a blank copy of the test. So this just like what we usually have in our past grades where our teachers requires us to have a summative test so that we will be prepared in the final exams. So this part is about involving students themselves in improving classroom tests. After taking a test, students can give feedback about it, what was clear, what was confusing, or what felt unfair. Their opinions are valuable because they actually experience the test firsthand. Teachers can collect this feedback using a review questionnaire or just like what we have after exams, the teachers would ask questions like which item was confusing, were the instructions clear. The best time to do this is the day after the test, while students still remember their impressions but without the stress of the test day. This way, tests can be revised and improved for the future, making them fairer, clearer, and more effective. So item improvement questionnaire for students. So these are the questions that the teacher um, can give to students after the test that they had. So first, if any of the items seem confusing, which ones were they? Second, did any items have more than one correct answer? If so, which ones? Third, did any items have no correct answers? If so, which ones? Fourth, were they words in any items that confused you? If so, which ones? Fifth, were the directions for the test or for particular subsections unclear? If so, which ones? So another example for this is you're taking a practice um, test. The students can say, "Ma'am, question 5 is confusing because two choices look correct." Then the teacher revises the item to make the correct answer clear. So another technique of eliciting student judgment for item improvement is by going over the test with his or her students before the results are shown. Students usually enjoy this activity since they can get feedback on the answers they have written. As they tackle each item, they can be asked to give their answer, and if there is more than one possible correct answer, the teacher makes notations for the item alterations. Having more than one correct answer signals ambiguity either in the stem or in the given options. The teacher may also take the chance to observe sources of confusion especially when answers vary. During the session, it is important for the teacher to obtain an atmosphere that allows students to question and give suggestions. It also follows that after an item review sessions, the teacher should be willing to modify and correct key answers. So the teachers check if the questions match what they thought, if they're fair for their students. In this area, like after the test, they try to teachers give explanations why the answers are this ones, why the distractors are are not the options. So they try to so the teachers check on every items uh, that the students find confusing. So to make it more easier to remember, when we say the teacher's own review, this is where the teachers check if the questions match what they thought and if they're fair for their students. When we say the peer review, this is where the colleagues or other teachers check if the test follows curriculum standards and is suitable for the grade level. And when we say the students' review, this is where the students can point out which questions are too confusing, too hard, or unclear based on their own experiences. The goal is to improve the test items so that they are clear, fair, and measure the right skills and knowledge. So that is all for my topic. Thank you for listening.